It was a calm Monday evening, the clock nearing 7:30 p.m. I had been deeply engrossed in a challenging project in my home office. The unfinished work loomed over me, but I decided to call it a day. I wandered into the softly lit kitchen, grabbed a chilled bottle of my favorite craft beer from the fridge, and took a sip. As I stood there, my eyes drifted to the window. Outside, on the patio near the fire pit, I saw Emma lounging on the outdoor sofa. Her legs were tucked beneath her, and she was chatting animatedly on her phone. I thought about stepping out to join her, but hesitated when I noticed her familiar habit, twisting a strand of her auburn hair around her fingers. It was a small, unconscious gesture I had grown to know intimately over the nearly 3 decades we'd shared together. That simple quirk, far from flirtatious, always felt like a piece of her soul, a reminder of countless late-night phone calls during my business trips. Back then, I would picture her just like this, absent-mindedly twisting her hair, even though miles separated us. That thought used to bring me comfort, easing the loneliness of those long nights. Through the window, I watched her radiant smile and soft laughter brighten the cool evening air. I couldn't see her eyes from this distance, but I knew they sparkled. Yet, as I stood there, admiration shifted to unease. She seemed too engaged, too alive, as if she were speaking to someone who held a special place in her heart. For 45 long minutes, I stood frozen, watching her share a connection that felt too intimate to exclude me. When she finally ended the call, the dreamy smile lingering on her face cut through me like a knife. Feeling hollow, I retreated to the family room and turned on the TV, pretending to care about a local baseball game. A little while later, Emma walked in. "How long have you been done with work?" she asked. "A while," I replied flatly. "Why didn't you come outside?" she pressed. "You were on the phone." "I didn't want to interrupt," I said casually. "Oh, for goodness sake." "That was just Mark," she explained, brushing it off. "We were talking about the client proposal." I nodded and turned back to the game, but I felt her eyes on me, searching. After a moment, she disappeared into the kitchen and returned with a glass of wine. She sat beside me on the couch. "What's the score?" she asked. "Not sure," I muttered. She chuckled softly. "Do you even know who's playing?" "The Blue Jays," I said absently. We sat in silence through half an inning until, during a commercial break, she spoke again. "Let's have the kids over for a barbecue on Saturday," she suggested. "Sure," I replied, my tone indifferent. She tried to make conversation, but my curt responses seemed to deflate her. Finally, she asked, "Ryan, what's wrong?" "Nothing," I lied. "You're not yourself tonight. Do you want to talk about it?" She pressed gently. "No," I said firmly. The silence stretched on. Eventually, as if trying to break the tension, she stood up and removed her blue t-shirt, revealing a playful smile. "How about turning off the TV and coming upstairs? I think I can help you relax," she teased. "Not tonight, Emma. I'm not in the mood," I said flatly. Her grin widened as she leaned closer. "Come on, big guy, I need you," she said playfully. I met her gaze and said coldly, "What part of not in the mood don't you understand?" Her smile vanished. "What's your problem?" "I was just trying to be nice," she said defensively. "Emma, you turn me down at least twice a week. The one time I say no, you act like a child. Grow up and leave me alone," I snapped. She stared at me, her expression sharp, before storming out of the room. For the first time in our marriage, I found myself sleeping in the guest room, or rather lying awake, staring at the ceiling. By 3 a.m., I knew there was no point in trying to sleep. I showered in the kids' old bathroom, then quietly slipped into the master bedroom to grab my clothes without waking her. Before heading to work, I installed tracking apps on both her personal and work phones, syncing them to my devices. When I arrived at the office, my head was pounding, and too much caffeine coursed through my system. I managed to push through and finalize a crucial presentation before my 2-day business trip, which was set to begin early the next morning. By Tuesday evening, the atmosphere at home was icy. Emma and I barely exchanged words, and any trace of intimacy had vanished. By Wednesday morning, I was on my way to the airport for a 7:20 a.m. flight. The day went well. I made significant progress with the client and felt optimistic about closing the deal. Yet every few hours, I checked Emma's location. The tracker showed she was either at home or at work. Still, a gnawing sense of distrust lingered. That evening, as I sat alone in the Marriott lounge, I checked the tracker again. At 7:30 p.m., her location pinged in an upscale neighborhood far from home, the address of her boss's house. My suspicions solidified. The months that followed were strained but passed in a blur. I maintained a polite distance, while Emma seemed to make visible efforts to repair our relationship. But our moments of intimacy felt hollow, like going through the motions without any genuine connection. Tracking her movements confirmed my worst fears. She confined her affair to the times I traveled. Discreet cameras I had installed at home revealed her packing bags and leaving for Mark's house whenever I was away. Acting on advice from a lawyer, I hired a private investigator. The evidence he uncovered was undeniable. Emma and Mark were caught in intimate moments in his backyard, recklessly exposed despite their attempts at secrecy. The images were irrefutable. With proof in hand, I began preparing for the inevitable. On a Thursday evening, I made the most painful calls of my life to our 3 grown children. Each conversation was heart-wrenching. As I explained my decision to divorce their mother, I broke down every time. When they questioned me, I asked, "Do you want me to show you the evidence?" None of them could bring themselves to respond. By Friday morning, everything was set in motion. Nearly 3 decades of marriage had reached an undeniable and heartbreaking end. That morning, I decided to call Emma. She picked up on the 4th ring. "Hey, sweetheart. This is a nice surprise. How are your meetings going?" Her voice was warm, as if nothing was wrong. "Hey, love. Meetings are the usual grind. You know how it goes." "How's work?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. "I'm just glad it's Friday. I've been counting down until you're home," she replied, a playful lilt in her voice. "It's been such a long week, and I'm really hoping we can make up for it this weekend." Her indirectness didn't go unnoticed. Over the past months, I had learned to recognize Emma's knack for avoiding certain details. She continued, "So, what made you call me out of the blue?" "I've got a question for you," I began cautiously. "It might seem strange, but I need an honest answer. This must be serious. You hardly ever call like this." "What is it?" she asked, intrigued. "Do you like my smile?" I asked. "Your smile? What kind of question is that?" "Of course. I adore your smile," she replied, her tone slightly puzzled. "You've said that before," I reminded her. "It was actually the first thing you ever said to me. Remember that night at the frat party? You walked straight over, leaving your friends behind, and told me, 'You've got a great smile.'" Her tone shifted, tension creeping in. "Ryan, what's going on? You're starting to worry me." I tried to keep my voice steady. "I've always tried to stay positive, Emma, to focus on the good, even when things were tough. When times were hard, being with you and raising our 3 amazing kids made it all worth it," she said softly. "That's what I love most about you. Your optimism, your smile, your strength. You're everything a man should be, Chris. I love you for that." The tears came then unstoppable. Despite everything, her love for me felt undeniable. Her voice grew more urgent. Christopher Harrington, tell me what's wrong. Please." Her sincerity only deepened the pain of what I needed to say. "I don't think I can smile anymore," I admitted after a long pause. The silence that followed was heavy, stretching out like an eternity. I imagined her thoughts racing, fear growing as she tried to make sense of my words. "Chris, you're scaring me. Just tell me what's going on," she pleaded. "It's too late, Emma. Talking won't fix this," I said quietly. "No, don't say that. It's never too late for us. We can work through this together, she insisted, her voice breaking. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. Conversations require trust, respect, and love. I know you love me, Emma, and I love you too. But I can't trust you anymore, and you've lost respect for me. Without those, there's no way forward. She tried to interrupt, but I pressed on. Respect is gone, Emma. Go to the living room window. What? Chris, what are you talking about? She asked, panic rising in her voice. Get up from Steve's lounge chair. Walk through his kitchen and look out the front window, I said firmly. The line went silent. Moments later, her scream shattered the stillness. Oh, God, no. He knows. Chris knows. From my vantage point, 75 feet away in Steve's driveway, I watched through the front window. Emma stood frozen beside Steve Davis, her lover, her boss, and the owner of the house. The sun's glare masked some details, but their outlines were unmistakable. I climbed into the U-Haul truck, reversed it into the circular driveway, and slammed the brakes. Boxes spilled out, tumbling onto the pavement and lawn. The sharp crash of fragile items breaking was a fitting end to it all. Among the shattered pieces lay fragments of her great-grandmother's china. Emma emerged onto the steps, wearing the bikini I had given her for our anniversary, the one she had saved exclusively for him. Steve followed, awkwardly wrapped in a robe. They didn't notice the unfamiliar car parked nearby until a woman stepped out, approached them, and handed each a yellow envelope. Emma Harrington, you've been served, the woman announced, snapping a photo. Then she turned to Steve. Stephen Davis, you and your firm, Smith, Davis, and Lewis, have also been served. Another photo. Then she walked away. No one moved at first. Finally, I broke the silence, my voice carrying clearly across the yard. I think we can all agree I deserve better than a deceitful, unfaithful wife. Emma groaned but stayed silent. Turning to Steve, I said, contact my attorney and make a generous settlement offer, or I'll make sure you and your firm are ruined. Emma, sign the papers. We're done. Without waiting for a response, I climbed back into the truck and drove away, leaving behind their stunned expressions and the broken pieces of my past.